All right, so today we're going to dive into a text that tackles one of the biggest questions out there: what happens after we die? This document, called the Gospel, lays out a really specific path to a place called heaven. So let's walk through its arguments step by step. So, this text we're looking at, it kicks things off with a question that, honestly, we all have to think about at some point. What's the one thing in life that is just absolutely certain? No doubt about it. And the answer, according to this source, it's death. Simple as that. It's often called the great equalizer because, think about it, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, it comes for everybody. But here's the thing, this isn't just about the end. It's really the starting line for a much, much bigger question. What comes next? Okay, so this is where the argument really gets going. The idea here is that death isn't the final destination. No, it's more like a fork in the road. It's this one thing that's guaranteed for all of us, and it leads to one of two very, very different outcomes. So from this point of view, when your soul leaves your body, it doesn't just, vanish or come back as something else. The text says it goes to one of two very specific, very distinct places: heaven or hell. That's it. A pretty straightforward choice, but with, eternal consequences. So that begs the question, right? How is that choice actually made? To help us figure that out, the text lays out this kind of, let's call it a qualification quiz, and it's really designed to challenge what we think we know about getting into heaven. And the main question of this quiz is, it's simple, but it's deep. What does a person actually have to do to qualify for heaven? Like, what are the entrance requirements? So the text lists a bunch of the usual suspects, right? The common answers. Things like obeying the Ten Commandments, just generally living a good life, doing good works, being a church member, getting baptized. I mean, all of these sound pretty reasonable, don't they? They seem like the right answers. Well, hold on, because this is where things take a really interesting turn. According to this source, if you picked any of those, you'd be wrong. From its perspective, all of those things are just us trying to earn our way into heaven, and it says they all fall short. So, why? I mean, why would being a good person or doing good things be the wrong answer? The text's whole explanation for this boils down to one single core idea: the problem of sin. And look, this document defines sin as more than just, doing bad stuff. It's presented as this fundamental part of the human condition, kind of like a built-in flaw that makes it totally impossible for anyone to live up to God's perfect standard of righteousness all by themselves. And to back this up, the text points to a very specific verse from the Bible, Romans 3:23. It says, "For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God." Now, the word the source really zeroes in on here is all. The whole argument is that this isn't just some people or even most people. It's everyone, a universal thing. Okay, so if our own efforts can't fix this problem of sin, then what's the solution? This is the pivot point. The text shifts from talking all about the problem to what it calls the only answer. And that answer is a gift. This is really the core idea here, the main contrast. Think of it like this. On one side, you've got all our human efforts, trying our best, obeying rules, doing good things. It's like trying to climb a ladder to heaven. But on the other side, there's what the text calls God's gift, which is all about grace and faith. It's a total mindset shift, from trying to earn your way there to simply receiving it as a gift. And the source backs this up with another quote, this time from Ephesians. It says that you're saved by grace through faith. And then it adds this really critical line: it is the gift of God, not of works. And the reason it gives is pretty interesting. It's so that nobody can brag or take credit for saving themselves. So what exactly is this gift? Well, the text defines the heart of the message, what it calls the gospel, using a passage from 1 Corinthians. It breaks it down into three simple, essential parts. 1, Christ died for our sins. 2, he was buried. And 3, he rose again on the third day. That three-part story, that's presented as the finished work. That is the gift. All right, so this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, right? If salvation really is a gift, what does a person have to do to get it? Is there a catch? And the text is super clear on this. The required response isn't something you do. It's a decision you make. The argument is that every single person has free will to either accept this gift or reject it. The only action needed is belief, just to place your complete trust in what's being offered. And one last quote from Ephesians really hammers this point home. The key word is trusted. So, according to this line of thinking, the whole process is pretty straightforward. You hear the message of the gospel, and then you respond by trusting in it. And that moment of belief, that's it. That's the point where the gift is accepted, and according to the text, your salvation is secure for good. So when you boil it all down, the entire argument of this text comes down to this one powerful contrast. Salvation isn't a wage you have to earn, it's a gift you just have to accept. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. How might that idea, the idea of an unearned gift instead of a reward for your actions, how might that completely change the way a person sees the world?